2 seconds, I gotta grab an agenda.
Bill, you know I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Did Sandra go?
She ran out.
Okay. Just welcome people to the meeting.
Sandra, you got it? Ready?
Thanks.
All right. Welcome to the Administrative Committee for Moscow City Council. We have many things on our agenda. All right. The first is to approve the committee meeting minutes from January 24th.
I move we approve them.
I would second that. They look great.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next thing on the agenda is approving the liquor license for the University of Idaho golf course. And Lori's going to report to us.
Council members. The University of Idaho applied for a liquor license for the golf course, and it is a new license. Newly issued licenses are required by state statute to be approved through City Council. The license has been approved at both the state level and the county level. And if the council approves the license, I can issue it, and then annual renewals are processed through the clerk's office. Cami McClure is here in attendance if you have any questions for the university, and I can also try to answer any questions.
My only question is, and I tried to look this up and then I got distracted and couldn't find my answer. How does it count if, I'm not quite sure how to phrase, if I buy a beer and I'm at the golf course and I get in my little golf cart and go golfing, are there restrictions on that?
So they would have on-premise consumption and off-premise consumption, which means that they would be drinking on the golf course and they can send a bottled beer out the door.
Okay.
But you may not take your own liquor or beer or
Right,
wine on
right.
the course, because then the entire course would be licensed.
Sure. Okay. No, that's just what I thought that's how it worked, but I didn't see that. Thanks.
I have a question. So as I'm getting my head around how the liquor license process in the state of Idaho works, I understand it's interesting. And so I guess I'm trying to understand if it's a new liquor license, it's not tied to are we able to grant it through some exemption with like it being a golf course, since everything in the city limits is already under use and being
So
used?
yeah, alcohol is based on population, but there are exemptions like a gondola city, a golf
I remember that
course,
one, yeah.
a convention center. All those are in addition to the population based.
Ruby.
And I swear I'm not being glib on this, but what took so long? Why now?
Yeah, I answer that one.
Okay.
But from the application or just for the golf course?
No, I
to
mean, just in
apply?
general. I mean, it's been there a long time. Been golfing there a long time. Heard
No.
lots of talk about this for a long time. I was really excited to see this come over.
Oh yeah,
I
is this
just
the first?
wondered if
Because I know there's been restaurants and stuff up there. Is this the first one that would be granted at the golf course? Do we know? And
I do not know. I believe so. If they had a beer and wine, it
Yeah.
expired when the restaurant went out.
okay.
right on.
I understand that.
I'm just saying I may learn how to golf now. This may give me incentive. So
I understand that alcohol enhances the experience of golfing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That might be a matter of opinion, but yes, I think the answer is yes. So this is not the first time that there has been alcohol at the golf course, but a first time in a very, very long
Okay,
time.
cool.
And once a couple of things happened when the university was able to offer alcohol at our
sporting events. Yeah.
our sporting events. It opened up an opportunity for us to look for, or it presented an opportunity to look for ways that we might be able to do it at the golf course. And when we recognized we could do it as a separate license,
Cool.
because it was a golf course with a restaurant
Yeah.
associated with it, then we pursued that. And you're right, that
That's
whole
tricky.
process was a new, exciting
Yeah.
experience.
There's a lot of asterisks in that whole list.
But it was good. I've learned a lot. So
Very
Great.
cool.
No, I
Any other
think it's great.
questions?
I'm all in favor.
Okay, so we.
What am I looking for?
Can it go on
approve
consent?
Would you like this on consent?
Be great.
We'll do that.
Great. Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, the next issue is the resolution for the destruction of city records. Some city records.
Some, yes. Yes,
Good
not all.
catch.
Idaho code allows for the destruction of records according to a retention schedule, which you guys passed this last December. City department submitted recommended documents for destruction, which are listed in the resolution. These documents would be destroyed in paper and electronic. So it's not, here's the papers we are destroying, but we're keeping them electronically. This is that record is gone. I've reviewed the resolution and it has also been approved through the legal department. If it is approved, the resolution is sent to the State Historical Society, who has 30 days to review the list and then identify any documents that they deem appropriate to be transferred to the permanent records repository. If I don't receive any notification within those 30 days, the records can be destroyed, and then I schedule a day for shredding, and I can answer any questions.
I don't have any questions on that. That's no small thing, though. That's a lot of work.
That is a lot,
Holy
yeah.
smokes. Especially with all the different dates when I was looking through that, some 16, some 17. And good job, Lori.
This is so interesting.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
Definitely not all me.
Where do these records live until they're destroyed?
They are all over in each department. City Hall basement is pretty dang full. They moved a ton of their records over to the Haddock building, everywhere.
And will you continue to follow this procedure every year so that you're keeping
We try and do it annually.
annually?
It was not done last year with everything that was going on, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting for that retention schedule to be
Yeah.
updated because that was pretty old and not enough detail in it to know.
Great.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions, Haley?
I guess I'm looking at this list and am intrigued by the list of, since we're calling them temporary, semi-permanent, and permanent, and I'm surprised. I guess I wouldn't, since they're not delineated between the permanent and semi-permanent. But I mean, I'm game. I know it is an art to manage records retention, so I trust the team put together a good list.
so I move that we approve this.
And I would be okay. Well, I'm trying to think if this is one that we'd want to have further discussion on. I think I'm okay with consent agenda.
I don't know why we'd need more discussion on it. Because we as a council approved it to go
Oh,
through this
yeah.
process already, right? So that's
And I guess
not
we're the
new.
two newbies, right, Julia?
Oh, and that wasn't meant like that.
No. As far as like getting eyes on it,
Yeah.
and having more time with it.
Yeah, I think we're good with it. Our staff knows the regulations, what can stay and what can't. And so we as a council, I think, said earlier, we trust that. So I
Yeah.
call for putting this on consent.
I am comfortable with that. Oh,
In
there it is.
Are you in favor?
I am in favor of putting this puppy on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
The next item on the agenda is the commission code updates to include subcommittees.
And me again.
And here you go.
Subcommittees are already used in some of our commissions to assist the carrying out of their duties. And after receiving a request from a commission to add the language to their code, I checked with the other commissions that didn't have subcommittee language in their code and see if that would benefit them. The proposed ordinance includes those that did not have the option, with the exception of the Board of Adjustment, because they review CUP's variances. They don't need subcommittees. One correction in the agenda blurb and the staff report, Parks and Recreation was not mentioned. So if I'll get that updated if you guys recommend to the full council. It's in the ordinance, just wasn't mentioned in the blurb.
I just wanted to make sure that the subcommittees still adhere to record keeping and open meetings and all that stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good question. Yeah, I'm comfortable approving on and recommend consent agenda for that guy.
Me too.
So we'll send that to the consent agenda.
No.
No, as an ordinance, that will need to be on the regular agenda.
Okay,
Sorry?
cool.
Because it's an ordinance.
Oh, yeah.
Regular
Oh,
ordinance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Good stuff.
all right. Last item on our list is the Andrew Becker Memorial in the Transit Center Sculpture Garden.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the time today. The Andrew Becker Memorial at the Transit Center Sculpture Garden, just a little bit of background about this. This is a project we've been working on since January of last year. This originated from a family donation. Andrew Becker was a community member, and when he passed away, his family asked the city to come up with some ideas for a memorial. The family landed on the idea that a piece of public art would be a really great way to remember Andrew. And so we worked on options for permanent installation. And we looked at a variety of locations. This one filtered out because of its sort of the general purpose of the location. Hits that first key theme for the artwork content. Andrew was somebody who was a huge advocate for accessibility, human rights, all of these points that you see on the screen here: inclusion, compassion, courage. And so the transit center hit those points because the plinths on site are very much in scale with the size of the project that the family had in mind. But also the meaning and purpose of the transit center. Its entire purpose is accessibility. So that was the reason that the family also has a lot of connections to U of I, and so the Vandal that overlap with the Vandal experience was really important to them as well. So that was the general direction in this this project starting in January of 2021. Wanted to take a minute to talk through timeline with everybody and to give you a sense of what we've done so far and where we're recommending that we head next. The January to March moment was about working out ideas with the donor. We created an RFP, brought that through some staff recommendations to the Arts Commission, to the donor, and to council. Through the spring of last year. At that point, we opened an RFP. And this particular project, we built the structure of the RFP so that it could accommodate emerging artist submissions. For those of you who know about public art, there are a lot of projects that are really oriented toward those who have a firmly established career in the field. So we're always looking for opportunities to have artists who are emerging into the field to have an entree, an access, if you will, into, which is important for this project, into the next level of the field. So that RFP was open from July through September. And then we extended into a second submission period that lasted until November. Did not receive any submissions for the project. At that point, we obviously reached out to some folks in the community to talk about what they were seeing, what they felt were the concerns about it. And the primary challenges we saw were in budget and material requirements. We'll get to that in a little bit. I want to take the rest of the time here to talk about timeline. The Arts Commission did recommend an artist and a project budget increase in January. Here we are at admin. If this new project structure works, we would move toward an installation in October of this year. So to continue on, we
did talk to some folks in the community, and they mentioned that the material requirements were tough, given the project budget. This is something, when I talked to the donor about this, I framed it very much in the terms that these are city requirements. Those material requirements are important to us because we're looking to make permanent accessions into the collection that are going to last for a long time. We understand that all things break down over time, but we really want strong coatings, metals that don't rust. So we have made a shift with our public art calls that are specifically for the permanent collection to say that we're looking for materials impervious to environmental degradation. So the artists who responded about that requirement largely said, yes, that's great. We would love to work in those materials. They cost more.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
paraphrasing there. But in any case, that seemed to be the real sticking point. Something else that we realized with public art is that we're asking people not only to know about those materials and be able to purchase those materials within the project budget, but to have a real fluency with how those fabrication processes work. With that in mind, we are proposing to revise the project to increase the budget from 5,000, which was what the donor provided, and that is something that they provided in FY21. We held that back to FY22 with the intent to expend those funds in FY22. And we are proposing to increase that project budget by $3,000, which we have identified those funds in an existing line item in the arts budget this year, and that resulted from a lower cost for our vinyl wrap project than we were anticipating. So it wouldn't represent an overrun for this year. And then we have already accounted for permanent signage. And as with all of our pieces that come into the permanent collection, we would be thinking about documentation and maintenance for the piece going forward. We've opened this RFP twice. It was open to the artists that you see, or to the geographic region that you see there on the screen, relates Idaho and surrounding states. And with those two rounds, the Arts Commission voted, as I mentioned, in their January meeting, to directly hire an artist for this installation. This has also been in consultation with the donor along the way. So the materials that you see in your packet today reflect that update to the selection process. Just to kind of circle back to the donor, because I think that's a really important piece. This will be the first project that we've brought into the collection with donor provided funds. So it's a really important moment for the arts department and for our collection here at the city. They have been wonderful to work with. They really love the idea of working with the city's existing selection processes. They're not hoping to shift those. They respect that we've got our ways of getting this business done, and that is to say they're happy with implementing that option to directly hire instead of having a competitive process. They are still interested in this particular plinth that is nice and visible from the corner. They are interested in the one thing that they mentioned is, are we going to be able to do this in 2022? If we do a direct hire, we feel confident that we're going to be able to pull off that timeline.
Great.
Okay, and so with no further ado, the Arts Commission has recommended J. Casey Doyle. Casey is somebody who they did offer rationale. Casey's working in the public art field. He does gallery work. He is doing art on loan program type installations. He's done installations on private property out here on the Palouse that have been pretty incredible. So he's familiar with the materials and the scale of this type of work. He's also been the primary point of contact for the sculpture garden. So when we do the ITC sculpture garden each year, this is one of our really wonderful working partnerships with U of I. Palouse Plein Air is another great example of a city program that wouldn't happen without U of I faculty collaboration. And so every year when we do the transit center, it's Casey and I either talk on the phone or we email and we say, okay, what are the dates? When is this all going to work? And it results in this really great program that's been solid since 2012. So he's got a connection to the site. And that's why the MAC recommended him. The piece that you see on the screen is from the Box Gallery installation that we had in November. His body of work includes all kinds of things, including metal sculpture, performance art. We'll obviously probably be looking for a metal piece in this, although if he wants to incorporate some performance into the dedication ceremony, I think that would be wonderful. So that is the artist recommendation from the Arts Commission. Just to get into guidelines for a minute, the public art guidelines were updated in 2021, and they determined that there are multiple methods for selecting an artist. We've already tried the first one, which is an open competition. And then the recommendation now is to move towards a direct invitation. To sum it all up, the January 11 recommendation is to directly hire J. Casey Doyle. On the staff side, we are recommending the increased project budget. And then in your packets, there's an amended donor agreement. There's a design contract, which is separate from the Artwork Commission based upon the legal department's preference.
Recommendation, I'm sure.
Yes, how they want us to do it is how we do it. They take good care of us. And so that's the recommendation for shifting this project at this point. And with that, all of that, we're happy to take questions.
So it looks like with the update we've got, so Casey's due date, at least for the design, would be the 29th of April.
Mhm.
And so that would be delivering starting with MAC, 2 recommendations, right? And then MAC going to council, or I guess MAC coming to the committee going to council. Is that still going to give him enough time I work better under deadlines and pressure. So I'm thinking, as far as, is Casey on board with that timeline?
Yeah, we talked through it, and what the thinking is that we would probably start that recommendation with a presentation to the donor.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
Yeah, and then that would go to the Arts Commission committee council, and I would just need to be on my game and make sure that I'm tending those timelines to get through council. And enough time to get his agreement done is part of the reason we really wanted to have those agreements built out and ready to go. And then summer's coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
So summer is a little bit more open for Casey, and he feels that he can accomplish that in that time period. And if we had to extend the deadline, we would work with it at that point. But I feel like it's viable. The ideal would be to land it in the opening of our Art Walk season, which is that's my dear Santa list. I would love to celebrate that sculpture as part of our Art Walk lunch for the 2022-2023 season. But we'll see what we end up with.
Cool.
I have a couple questions. I like this a lot, and I really appreciate the process that everyone went through to try and have the competition, and then realizing they couldn't. Right. So, well done to the donors. I know that families worked really hard to make this happen all the right ways. And these are just like funny little fundamental questions I have. Really, one is they have that permanent spot, and I think you approached us about something like this earlier. Does that leave 3 or 4 of those plinths. I never knew that word before. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
To have them for student sculptures. Is that right? 3 left or 4 left?
We have 4 left.
Okay.
So we started out with 5 in that location. We reduced it to 4. We actually talked to U of I faculty at that point because this has been primarily a student opportunity, although as our honorarium goes, kind of ticks up as budget can allow, we may start to see some more community members taking part in that.
Okay.
But it's been primarily a student
Yeah.
opportunity. My concern was, about making it too competitive for them, and that, do we want more students to be able to participate, or is a
Yeah.
little bit more competition okay? And they felt like it was
great.
okay. Yeah.
Great. And then the other thing that just popped into my head was if there's damage to it in a couple years, 3 years, is the city on the hook to fix that? Okay.
Mhm.
I assumed, but
Yeah, I would need to have that agreement in front of me, and I don't
Mhm.
right now, but
it's fine.
we typically have a 1-year warranty on artworks, so that if there's a finish malfunction, if there's some kind of structural thing that's I believe the term is inherent vice. I've learned that recently. That there is a 1-year warranty
Okay.
on that
Good.
artwork. But after that point, any maintenance and conservation needs would be the city's
Yeah.
responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think I mentioned to you this earlier, but I love the idea of public art all around, and that excites me. But are there protocols in place to figure out when we will and when we won't allow like a memorial type art piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. This is there are provisions for donations to both the city's portable collection and to the permanent public art collection that are in the public art guidelines. And so that looks very similar to those of you who are involved in the donation of Pam Overholzer's works into the portable
Mhm.
collection. That comes to the Arts Commission. Well, it usually comes to city staff first, and then I would take that to the Arts Commission to say, hey, here's this opportunity to take in a donation of either a physical artwork or a monetary donation to support the installation of an artwork. And the Arts Commission will make a recommendation to council based on that
Mhm.
particular situation. We've formalized this process significantly in the last couple of years, in that we are we're doing more detailed
Yeah.
donor agreements, so everybody knows what it is we're
Great.
thinking about. But I'm happy to give you a copy of that, although do you want to
No, I'm good. I
Okay.
wondered what that was,
Got
and
a
just wanted to make
big
sure.
document you could read if you wanted
If you
to.
want me to take that home, I will, because it was a great effort. I just was curious because sometimes these things can snowball, and sometimes they're great at first, and then all of a sudden you get backed into a corner where it's not great. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we're good.
Sometimes I think the thing that comes up most often, there was a donation offered a few years back, and they were on a tighter timeline than we could possibly
Mhm.
accommodate, given all of the other things that were going on. Public arts seems to move a little. It has a
Yeah.
there's a process to it.
Yeah.
And so in those cases, not all donations are a good fit.
Right.
We would love for them to be, but sometimes if the donors intent and the city's capacity aren't a match, then we need to find another place for that resource to
Great.
be in the community. So yeah.
That was all I was looking for. So thank you, Megan.
Okay, I have some financial and maybe philosophical questions. One is, so $8,000. That's do you have any idea about how much of that goes to materials?
No, the simple answer, I don't know how much of that would go to materials. My understanding is that probably Casey will work with a fabricator. Believe he's thinking about some cast aluminum. I don't want to tie him down to that idea. That was just his initial thought about how that would be accomplished. So I don't know how how that would break out just yet.
But I understand because they said 5,000 wasn't enough, so we bumped it up to 8,000. Apparently that's enough, but we don't really know what the cost of the materials is.
Yeah.
Which is okay. But my real question is more of a philosophical one in that Casey's a professional artist. Yes. And that's what we were looking for. So as a professional artist, whose services that we want in the city, I just want to make sure we're paying artists. I just want to make sure. I know he gets a fee,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But as a city, are we exploiting artists by only giving them $8,000 for a sculpture that's supposed to last forever? That's my question. As the mother of an artist, let me tell you, artists need to be paid.
Artists need to be paid. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. Yes, the big smile on my face. Yes, absolutely. So this is something that we've worked on with our project budgets in the last few years. A program like the Transit Center Sculpture Garden, that's had an honorarium that's been growing toward market alignment in the last couple of years. You know, I think the challenge for a project like this one is to design within the budget to find ways to design the piece to fit that budget. Um,
And in some ways, I feel like doing it on a plinth should help a little bit, right? As far as he's not having to fill as, not that he doesn't have to fill as much space because I want him to feel unable to do what fits. But yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and so I'm reading the fine print. So we got $1,000 for his proposal and presentation. So we know we're compensating for his time and vision leading up to. So he's able to get $1,000 right away to make sure that his proposal and prepresentation and is being well compensated.
Yeah.
I guess is the question. Well compensated versus compensated.
So that model is very much like, so when we did our installation at Sea and Main, that was installed in July 2020, that the way that worked was we had 3 finalists and each one was paid $1,000 to create a design.
Cool.
So that made it so that they're not putting design work forward without being compensated for their work in that moment. So the model of taking that project budget and saying, all right, let's call 1,000 of it for design. That's saying, hey, your design time and expertise has value. And then I think Haley's point is really, Council Member Lewis's point.
You're good. I don't know who
Ah,
grabs your
goodness.
knuckles for that,
Okay.
but I'm good with it.
Goodness. I apologize. An excellent point about the plinth being something that helps us with a sculpture of it. It controls the scale of the piece, but also he's not having to create a footing, which is, that's for our collection, that's an engineered thing. So he's not having to pay an engineer. It's going to change the scale of the piece. He can essentially either weld or bolt that piece onto the weathering steel plate that's on top of the basalt plinth. But the concern about, are we exploiting the artist, I think is a really good one. And it's one that we take very, very seriously in our work, that we're doing our best to pay artists a sustainable sustainable may be the wrong word, but market aligned. So the way we measure that is, I talk to people across the state. I look at calls for art, for public art, and try to make sure that as much as the budget can accommodate, that we are not asking artists to work below the, below the market.
Okay.
Great.
So this one it doesn't go on the consent agenda, right? It goes to,
It could, but given the unique nature of the
Yeah.
project, I think it might be good to have
Yep.
this on regular agenda. But a contract and agreement can go on consent.
Okay.
If you wished, but I think this one, given the unique nature of the donation
Yep.
and contribution, I think it'd be good to have this on
Give
regular
it the
agenda.
time.
regular
And
agenda.
it'd be good for folks to know how this is progressing, I think, too, because it's been we've been talking about it for a long time. So I love the progression. I'd love to get out to the public. So,
I'm good with
but
that.
I recommend approval of it for sure.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any staff reports, Bill?
Staff reports this afternoon.
All right.
Okay.
I think we should adjourn.
I think we should adjourn too.
Agreed.
Haley?
I'm on board.
Okay.
Do we? Yeah. Okay. Adjourned. Love it.